So welcome to ATI Talks. My name is Niels van der Linden. I'm a Senior Director at Capgemini Invent, and I'm your host for this session. ATI stands for Advanced Technologies for Industry. It's a project commissioned by EASMA and DG GROW that contributes to the European Commission's industrial policy approach and aims to promote the creation of a competitive European industry. It brings a systematic monitoring of technological trends and reliable up-to-date data on advanced technologies to support implementation of policies and initiatives. And to this end, the consortium has collected all kinds of data on the creation and use of advanced technologies and produced various reports on technological trends and sectoral insights and policy measures and tools. And in this talk, we will discuss some of those insights that were generated in the study, and we will do so with Sebastiano Toffaletti, who is the Secretary General of the European Digital SME Alliance. Sebastiano, welcome. Well, first the word, of course, to you to introduce yourself and the Alliance.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Niels. As you said, I'm Sebastiano Toffaletti, Secretary General of the European Digital SME Alliance. We are a European association based in Brussels, whose members are national organizations representing digital small and medium-sized enterprises. So we sit on a quite large, very large network, which reaches out to approximately 20,000 SMEs across the continent. So we have, 28 countries where in the EU and even beyond where we have SMEs through our national members. Very glad to be in this conversation, Niels.
Thank you very much, Sebastiano. Well, a short introduction to this talk for everyone who is viewing and hearing in. The objective of this talk is to hear from you actually and the European Digital SME Alliance on what currently hinders SMEs in technology adoption, and also to talk about possible solutions or initiatives that happen that could support their transformation. We will touch upon a couple of those things along the line in this conversation. And of course, the recent studies that we did in the ATI project will provide input for the questions. So perhaps, Sebastiano, as a first question, it will be on technology adoption by small and medium-sized enterprises. In one of the reports, the general findings report, we found that technology adoption by SMEs lags behind that of the larger companies. Now, there are some positive exceptions, like in public cloud, where SMEs show a higher adoption than large companies, but mostly the smaller the company, the lower the uptake of technologies. And the gap is even bigger in some of the emerging technologies. What's your view? How would you explain that SMEs lag behind here, and what are possible reasons behind this?
Okay, thanks for the question, Niels. Of course, when we talk to SMEs through our members, what we understand very often is that there are some basic issues which are quite obvious. First of all, there is lack of awareness about technologies. There is lack of skills, difficulty to attract talented people. And there are not sufficient investments in research and innovation. These are quite obvious considerations, perhaps, but what we should, in my opinion, when we talk about technology adoption, we should consider, the broader picture, which I would call the digital transformation of companies, especially SMEs. And when we talk about digital transformation, here we need to understand what we are talking about, because unfortunately, many of our policymakers and even our business leaders have not understood the real purpose of digitalization, because many nowadays still think that digitalization simply means companies basically using online platforms. So becoming, a user, a customer in Amazon or in Google or in Facebook or you can name the platform. And we do say that digitalization is much more than that, because digitalization is about rethinking the company's business model in order to generate value through technologies. So again, when we talk about technologies, it's not just using the technologies, but it is becoming, mastering those technologies. It is rethinking the business model itself of the company and go through an innovation process by which you will change the nature of the company itself and you will generate value. So we think, first of all, we need to understand, have a good problem statement, and then we can advise on policies and plans to make this happen, Niels. I hope it is clear.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that's a very good point. Every transformation starts with the understanding of the opportunity and to act on and be able to act on that. So if we take one of those technologies like artificial intelligence, AI, we produced an AT watch on AI. Well, total spending is on the rise, right? So this is a big market, a big opportunity for SMEs, for industry players. We also noticed in the report that actually the European Union market is growing much faster than the global market. So especially in Europe, that should create chances for SMEs. What's your view? How can SMEs benefit, and maybe also initiatives that your organization is taking in this regard?
Yes, Niels. I've seen the report, the AT report on AI, and I think it is you're doing a very good job there, because you are really pointing to important facts and figures that can help us understand the market, especially when we talk about adoption in SMEs. What we have done in the course of 2020 is a new initiative as a European organization. We created a group which we called Focus Group on AI, where we have asked companies throughout the continent to apply to become a member of this group. And so we have selected 100 companies, SMEs, that use, develop, and adopt AI. We have done that together with the European Commission, by the way, in order to have a good focus group of companies which we can monitor along the years to help us understand what are the trends, what are the barriers, what are the incentives that these companies have in the adoption of artificial intelligence. And I can certainly say that until now we have understood that there is, as you say, a very much growing demand for this technology, and there is very good appetite in Europe, and the market is going very well. Certainly in sectors like finance, telecom, media, utilities, oil and gas, but also very much in the manufacturing sectors. We think that especially in the B2B area, we have a lot of scope for companies that provide AI services to other companies, because there is a lot of advantages, optimization that can be done through AI. So I think the picture shows that quite importantly, Europe is leading, especially in the B2B markets, in the industrial adoption of AI, whereas we have initially thought that the B2C market was where the AI was going to be used massively, and it is, of course. We have the American and the Chinese companies using very much AI in the B2C, but Europe is leading in the B2B, and I think we see a quite positive forecast for the future, Niels.
Yeah. Great. That's, by the way, also a great initiative to gather all those companies from across Europe. So congratulations on that. And would you say that also helps to advance the developments across the broader, let's say, European territory? Because one of the findings also we found is that most of, let's say, the patents and talent is concentrated in some key geographies, while many other regions in Europe lag behind. And I can imagine also with your constituents being in all those countries, this is also an initiative that could help to maybe close that gap a bit.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Well, you see, of course, we agree there are a lot of differences in different geographies. Now, we think the focus should probably be regional rather than national level, because even if you take, a country that scores very well in your reports, Niels, Germany, there are obviously many differences between regions in the same Germany, within Germany, in terms of, patent filings, applications, and so on, and adoption of technologies in general. So we think what the answer will be that we need, good plans, good strategies. For instance, smart specialization at the regional level is a very good idea, because we cannot hope that all the regions will be strong in all areas. And so we need to understand what the strengths of each regions are and where we want to point each of the regions. In general, I would say what we see is, especially now in this particularly point in time, when there is a big investment coming from Europe, which is in the recovery fund, essentially, which is historically the largest investment ever. We see in many countries, from many governments, lack of substantial plans for how to spend this money in ways that is productive and that helps companies really adopt technologies and go through a substantial transformation of their business models to make them future-proof. And there is, unfortunately, not sufficient planning, not sufficient strategic thinking about that. People tend to see the short-term benefits of having, a lot of money to spend, but there is not sufficient concentration on the long term in things like, really investing on innovation, investing on skills development, etc., on awareness, things that really are important to create a future for Europe, especially for the regions that are behind. And these are, by the way, the countries and the regions where which will be the highest recipients of this recovery package. So it is important that precisely those countries use this money in the right way with a long-term plan.
Yeah, excellent. Great point. There's one more thing I wanted to tap into. You started the discussion also by saying, okay, SMEs need to understand the business opportunity and need to rethink their business model, basically. Once they're beyond that point, we get to the point of the people that need to implement it, and we talk about skills, right? Now, I think this is a very important element of any digital transformation. It has a lot of attention from the Commission and member states and all the entities involved in pushing that agenda forward. There are some positive signals already. One of the things we found, and our colleagues from Technopolis run a LinkedIn analysis, and to compare also the skills landscape compared to the US. It shows that, for instance, we have a higher relative share of professionals with skills in advanced manufacturing technologies, advanced materials, nanotechnology. It also shows it grows the most in blockchain and AI, even in the EU 27. But of course, also some negatives where we lag behind as Europe in cloud technologies and big data and security. Apart from the actual statistics, I think the bottom line is still that the hiring demand is very high for most of these advanced technologies, and there's still quite a gap in what is actually needed. Now, for SMEs, I think that is a particular difficult case in the sense that they compete with the big ones. How can they keep their digital talent? Also, while they not have a real habit of training and educating people, only 1 in 10 is really focused on putting employees on training. What, in your view, is needed to improve this? How can we help SMEs in that sphere?
Well, first of all, the issue of talent in SMEs is, in my opinion, the most important topic if we talk about digital transformation and really securing a bright future for Europe. Because without talent, there is not going to be any digital transformation. There is not going to be adoption of technologies. And it is particularly in SMEs, as you say, Niels, that we have a problem. because larger companies are much more capable of attracting and retaining talent. Our SMEs, when we survey them, they always say the first issue, the first barrier for them, for their growth, for their technology adoption, is insufficient talent. Incapacity to attract, incapacity to retain the talent. So this is really a top problem. As you certainly know, Niels, we have the Digital SME Alliance. Together with Capgemini and Technopolis in 2019, we developed a strategy for digital skills. So we have looked at the problem, in an analytical way, interviewing companies and making research, etc. And we came up with some recommendations. With the idea of a multi-stakeholder public-private partnership for Europe to address the skills gap, especially in SMEs. And this plan had, some pillars, and I would say the most important are, first of all, a platform for training and education at European level, so offering a one-stop shop solution for companies and citizens that want to understand about the skills initiatives and want to find resources how to get skilled. We thought it was important to gather skills intelligence, so to point our industry into the right directions, understand using data-driven foresights on future skills, tell the industry, the companies already now what skills will be needed in the next 5 or 10 years. Really support our economic development through that. And then again, strengthening the ecosystem leadership. So really focusing on the type of companies that can attract the talent and that can transfer the technology to other companies. And last but not the least, we thought it is important to pay particular attention to education and empowerment of girls and women in ICT, for instance, by allowing more flexible work arrangements, because we think, the workforce, the women in the workforce are very important, and many of them are well educated, and therefore it's super important for Europe that we keep and retain them in the ICT workforce, Niels.
Thank you very much, Sebastiano, for that, and those are very valid points. I fully agree. I think we can chat for hours on that particular topic. We won't do now, also for the sake of time of this ATI talk. I want to go to a conclusion. I think this was very insightful in hearing your views on the position of SMEs as regards adopting new technologies, how that develops across Europe, and some specific points related to it, like skills and human capital. Is there any final word you would like to say, or recommendation you would like to make?
Well, I think you are just doing a good job. I hope it will continue. What the technology adoption reports are very important, because they help everyone to understand where we are and where we should go. So they do the technology intelligence that we need in Europe, especially our industry need in Europe, to understand where we will be going. I think we need to focus always to stress the point that we need long-term innovation. We don't need short-term solutions, because digitalization is a process. Technology adoption is something that is long-term. What we want is our companies to master technologies, to reinvent technologies, to be on top of technologies, okay? Because only by doing so, they will be competitive, they will stay ahead of the revolution and the global competition. Secondly, as I said, I think we need to keep investing on skills development, because this is what we will thrive in the future. If you want to become an innovation economy, the first important capital is the human capital, and this is where our investments should go. Thirdly, we want to call again governments, European and national, to boost the investment in research and innovation, especially in SMEs, especially for technology adoption, because it's only by doing so that we will have, a more advanced economy, companies that can be ahead and stay competitive in the future.
Thank you very much, Sebastiano. It was a pleasure talking to you on this important topic. I'd like to thank you for all your insightful comments. Much appreciated. We would welcome our viewers to look upon the related reports and studies on the ATI project website. You can see the URL now in the screen. They're easy to find. The reports are also mentioned on this slide. And of course, we're happy to hear your views on this or any other related topics to the ATI. This was the first ATI Talks with Sebastiano Toffaletti from the European Digital SME Alliance. Our next talk will be on technology centers and how technology centers can increase and scale up the activities of small and medium-sized enterprises in Europe. We're looking forward to welcoming you then and to tune into this ATI Talk. Thank you for viewing, and until next time.